The Serengeti savanna, following the early season rains, emerged like a vibrant oil painting. A lush, cool green stretched to the horizon, where waist-high grass swayed in the wind like waves of a vast ocean. In that space, the scent of damp earth mingled with the heady fragrance of wildflowers, creating an extraordinarily pure atmosphere. However, for Rex, the seasoned German shepherd of the ranger station, this silence harbored something unusual. Rex lay on the station porch, his pointed ears suddenly bolting upright. Amidst the thousands of fresh scents of the prairie, his keen sense of smell caught a stray signal. The smell of decay, a faint but haunting scent of death, rising from the distant acacia thickets. Moments later, Rex shivered slightly as he sensed weak acoustic waves, the heartbreaking, raspy cry of a helpless young creature falling into despair. In the anti-poaching K-9 training manuals, there was never a clause teaching Rex what to do when hearing the cry of a wild animal in the middle of a sunny day. Yet, a primal instinct stronger than any discipline surged within him. Without an order, without even a nod from his owner, Rex stood up quietly. He left the porch, stepping firmly through the green grass, embarking on a self-imposed, mysterious mission, leaving behind the artificial peace of the ranger station. Inside the station, Zara was enjoying a rare moment of morning leisure. The kettle whistled cheerfully on the stove, and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the small room. For a ranger, this was time to organize her thoughts before starting a busy patrol. Zara walked to the window, looking out over the emerald savanna, wondering about Rex's strange absence since dawn. But the morning stillness was quickly shattered by a strange sound, the frantic, anxious scratching of claws against the wooden front door. Zara set her coffee down, a sense of unease rising. She turned the knob, prepared to scold Rex for leaving his post without permission. However, as the door creaked open, her breath seemed to freeze in her chest. There on the porch floor sat Rex, majestic yet pleading. And right by his paws was a lion cub, its grayish fuzz matted with green seeds and mud. As a conservationist, Zara's heart skipped a beat. Her blood surged with a mix of shock and fear. In the wild, the appearance of a lion cub near human habitation usually meant a fierce mother lion was lurking nearby. Her hand trembled as it reached for her belt, where her tranquilizer gun and radio were kept, but the movement stopped abruptly when she met Rex's eyes. Those eyes didn't hold a single spark of aggression or the typical alertness of a service dog facing an enemy. Instead, Zara saw a strange calmness, a gaze containing an empathy so deep it made her shiver. Then, in a moment frozen in time, Rex slowly lifted his front paw and gently placed it on the lion cub's head. It wasn't the act of a predator subduing prey. It was a comforting caress, a big brother's vow of protection. Zara stood transfixed, a bolt of absolute trust running down her spine. In that instant, all species barriers and strict safety protocols seemed to vanish. She no longer saw a domestic dog and a wild beast, but two souls leaning on each other for help. Her initial shock gave way to a surge of emotion. She understood that Rex had risked his instincts and his training to bring home a hope, a flickering life in need of human hands. Zara lowered her hand,
It's okay,
moved it
Rex.
away from her holster, and whispered to her loyal
You're
friend,
such a good boy.
"All right, Rex, I understand. We're going to help him." That moment, the image of an improbable friendship between a shepherd dog and the king of the savannah was etched into Zara's mind, becoming the most vivid testament to the sacred connection between hearts that vibrate at the pain of another. As Zara stepped off the porch, the lion cub, whom she had temporarily named Leo, seemed to shed some of his initial shyness. Instead of curling up at Rex's feet, he began to exhibit strange behavior. Leo bolted down the wooden stairs, rushed toward the trail leading into the green valley, and then stopped abruptly. He turned his head to look at Zara, emitting raspy sounds, a mix of primal growls and desperate sobs. His small tail lashed the air continuously, his amber eyes flashing with an urgency that seemed to say, Please, follow me. There's no time left. Rex also stood up, his black and tan coat rippling as he shook off the morning dew. The dog didn't bark loudly to sound an alarm as usual. Instead, he looked at Zara expectantly and gave a short, low bark, a definitive signal of agreement. Zara knew this was no stroll. She grabbed her radio, the emergency medical kit filled with basic supplies and cardiac stimulants, and jumped into the dust-covered Jeep. "All right, you two, lead the way," Zara shouted over the roar of the engine. The journey began. On the lush green grass, the lion cub led the way with extraordinary strength for his small frame. Leo wove through the scrub, his short legs gripping the damp soil. Rex ran parallel, his eyes constantly scanning the surroundings to ensure the safety of their new friend. Zara's Jeep followed behind, tires crunching over the grass, leaving 2 long tracks like a promise of incoming aid. Throughout the drive, Zara never took her eyes off Leo. She noticed a sense of urgency rarely seen in a species known as the proudest on the savannah. Every short distance, Leo would turn his head to ensure Zara's car was still following. His small roars were swallowed by the vastness of the Serengeti, but to Zara, they rang out like an emergency siren. She wondered, what had driven this tiny creature to abandon the safety of his pride to seek help from those he should normally avoid? The savannah was hauntingly beautiful today, but beneath that brilliant sun, Zara felt a race against time. She pressed the accelerator harder, red dust mingling with the scent of fresh grass behind the vehicle. Rex stood majestically in the passenger's seat, ears pricked forward, his keen sense of smell working again, leading the group deeper into the core of the reserve, where a painful secret waited to be revealed under the shade of an ancient acacia tree. The strange friendship between a dog and a lion cub had now become the most unique rescue team the savannah had ever witnessed. The Jeep stopped abruptly before a hollow where the grass grew tallest and greenest. So green it seemed to have absorbed the very essence of the recent rains. Right in the middle of that vibrant life, a heartbreaking scene appeared that made Zara's heart tighten. Under the sparse leaves of an ancient acacia tree, a large lioness lay motionless. Leo the cub rushed to his mother's side, nuzzling his tiny head against her neck and letting out soul-piercing whimpers. Rex also approached, but he stopped at a respectful and alert distance, his sad eyes looking at Zara as if to say, "My mission ends here. Now it's your turn." Zara climbed out of the car, carrying the medical kit. The contrast between the lush green grass and the lioness's emaciated body created a haunting image. The creature that was once the ruler of this land was now just a skeleton draped in skin, her breath ragged and wheezing like dry leaves rubbing together. Zara donned her medical gloves and knelt beside the dying giant. She noticed white discharge from the nose and mouth, along with a labored, heaving chest. With years of experience, Zara immediately recognized the silent killer, bovine tuberculosis. This is a nightmare for African wildlife. Perhaps in a bout of hunger after the rains, the mother lion had hunted an antelope or buffalo infected by human livestock that had strayed into the core area. The TB bacteria had silently eaten away at her lungs and lymph nodes, turning a great warrior into a frail, being unable to stand on her own feet. Looking at the partially decayed carcass of an antelope lying not far away, Zara understood that the mother had tried to hunt until her last breath to feed her cub, but that very meal had been poisoned. If Rex hadn't caught the scent of death from afar, if Leo hadn't been brave enough to find the station, then within hours, the mother's heart would have stopped, and Leo would not have survived the night against prowling hyenas. Zara hurried to open the kit, taking out a stethoscope to check the heartbeat while preparing an emergency stimulant. She felt the heat radiating from the lioness's body, a fierce fever burning her from the inside. Every time the lioness tried to inhale, her whole body shuddered. Leo never left her side, licking the cracked skin on her nose, as if a child's love could push back death. Zara pulled out her radio, her hand shaking with emotion, but her voice steady. This is Alpha 1 to Vet Center. I've found the target. It's a late-stage bovine TB case. I need an aerial rescue team and high-dose antibiotics immediately. Sending coordinates now. Please hurry. Under the shadow of the acacia, in the bright Serengeti sun, 3 animals and 1 human stood together on the fragile boundary between life and death, waiting for a miracle that only a magical connection could bring. The roar of helicopter engines from the horizon tore through the silence of the Green Valley. The reserve's aerial vet team had arrived, while the veterinarians descended quickly, working in harmony to administer anesthesia and high-dose antibiotic fluids. Another scene unfolded that silenced everyone present. Rex, the brave German shepherd, didn't move an inch from his spot. During the tense wait, he had lain down beside Leo, letting the cub rest his head against his warm fur. It was a magical circle of protection, humans healing a wild beast, and a domestic dog comforting a future king. When a mother lion was placed on a stretcher to be moved to the center's special isolation ward, Leo was taken along. Before the cage door closed, Zara saw Leo look at Rex one last time, a gaze no longer filled with fear, but with a profound bond. Weeks passed, and the Serengeti still wore its lush green coat, though the rains began to thin. In the isolation ward, the mother lion recovered miraculously, thanks to the most advanced medicine and dedicated care. The TB bacteria were pushed back, her muscles toned up again, and her eyes regained the authority of an apex predator. The day of release arrived. Zara drove the jeep, taking Rex along to the release point, right at the foot of the ancient acacia where it all began. When the iron cage door opened, the lioness stepped out with dignity. She sniffed the air of freedom, her golden fur shimmering in the sun. Leo dashed out after her, excitedly jumping through the green grass. But before heading deep into the wilderness, something incredible happened. The mother lion stopped, turning her head to look directly at Zara's jeep. She stood there, majestic and still, like a respectful salute to those who had saved her life. As for Leo, the cub had grown a bit larger. He suddenly broke away from his mother and ran toward the car. He stopped just a few feet from Rex. Rex stood on the back of the jeep, tail wagging gently, his eyes soft as he looked at his brother of a different species. Leo tilted his head, letting out a soft but clear roar, then rubbed his nose in the air, a gesture of the deepest gratitude toward his temporary foster father. After that moment, he turned, ran back to his mother, and both disappeared into the endless green of the savannah. Zara placed her hand on Rex's head, feeling the dog's peaceful heartbeat. She smiled, a look of contentment and relief. The story of Rex and Leo was not just a successful animal rescue. It was an invaluable lesson in trust. In a world often filled with harsh rules and division, the friendship between Rex and Leo reminds us, when we dare to listen with our hearts and trust the instinct of kindness, miracles will always exist. If the story of Rex and the lion family touched your heart, please help us spread this message by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Every small action you take contributes to protecting the precious lives on this savannah. Have you ever witnessed an improbable friendship between animals? Share your story in the comments below. Thank you for journeying with us to the end. See you on the next patrol.